Hello everyone, I am Vivek and I welcome you to the second episode of Vidya Manthan Season 2. This series is organized by Authority Solutions and Punekar News. In today's episode, we will be discussing about Education 2025, Reimagining Future Schools. So need to find out solutions of various challenges faced by the schools and particularly teachers while giving online classes to students is being felt across the education industry. The unprecedented situation of COVID-19 pandemic has generated radical transformation of our education system, forcing teachers as well as students to adapt in a short time to new social conditions and to the online learning process. Although before the pandemic, the e-learning system was rarely used by both students and teachers, it has been observed that students have accepted online learning even if they find it less attractive than the traditional education system. From teacher, student, parent perspective, e-learning is an effective, sustainable learning solution in current and future conditions, but it requires good collaboration between parents and teachers. Also needed is careful monitoring of students' behavior to identify and combat possible effects determined by the changing way of learning and of social realities. Let's dig deep and understand how it will be few years down the line. To discuss on this, we have three guests with us. First, we have Mrs. Amrita Prabhu. Ma'am is founder principal of HDFC School, Pune. An MA in English, MEd and NET qualified, she has served as a teacher in melange of CBSE and international schools for over 15 years and has thereafter been an able school administrator for over more than 10 years now. Welcome, ma'am. We are glad to have you here with us for today's talk.
Pleasure, Vivek. Thank you so much for having me over.
Next, we have Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Bhardwaj. Sir is principal of Podar Public School, Hingoli. He has earned B.Ed, MSc in Organic Chemistry and MPhil in Chemistry degrees. With over 18 years of experience, Sir is also managing 6 other CBSE schools as mentor principal. Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us.
So it's a pleasure and honor, sir, to be the part of this program. So thank you.
We also have with us Mrs. Pallavi Nayak. Ma'am is the principal of Dr. Kalmadi Shama Rao High School, Ganesh Nagar, Pune. Ma'am holds bachelor's degree in sociology and master's degree in social work. With more than 29 years of experience, ma'am is also a master trainer for British Council and Government of Maharashtra, ELISS, that is English Language Initiative for Secondary Schools program. Welcome, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
So, without further ado, I will start with Amrita, ma'am. So, let's talk on the topic itself. How do we see the education happening few years down the line, given the condition that there will not be any social distancing restriction or no limitation that is right now? Still, how will it be? Will it be back to the traditional way which were happening earlier, or will there be some transformation, some reformation? Ma'am, over to you.
Yeah. So good evening again, and thank you, Vivek. Good evening to all the panelists. I'm honored to be there amongst them today, and also for the audience which is there to encourage us on the live session. So to begin with, Vivek, I would like to continue from where you just ended, saying that whether it is going to be a continuum or whether it's going to be once again turning back of the wheel. So turning back of the wheel, I certainly feel will not happen, because as educators and for the students also, I would say that we've all tasted blood. So once you have seen the positives and what all the EdTech can offer you, especially the plethora of opportunities available through technological aided resources which are available in the past 1 year, and you have the top-notch EdTech companies like you have Microsoft, you have Google, and what have you. They have come up with such multiple resources in education, and mind you, these resources were already existing. They were were already there. We as educators used to always have ample of trainings. We were introduced to it. We knew, okay, fine, there is some such thing which is more an advanced kind of a thing which we can take our students through. Our students were also aware of it, but putting them into practice was always one step behind, because we were so used to the physical kind of a curriculum. But now what has happened is that thanks to the pandemic, I would say that we have been fully forced into taking that kind of the approach. So the other road, which was a physical kind of a setup, has been completely shut down. And now we have been, for the past almost 1.5 years almost, we have been relegated to this curriculum. So there are the pluses, there are the minuses, but whatever would be the way forward, reimagining 2025, I would say 2030 also for that matter, is going to be, revolutionizing the education system, like it is in few papers where I was reading. So they call it the education 4.0, wherein you are speaking of a digital revolution, which is going to propel these education further, and wherein it is not just the educators, the teachers, but it is the student community, because they are the Gen X. So they are the ones who are born into this actually. So we are the ones, we are from that generation who have adapted these techniques, and we are trying to facilitate the curriculum to our students. But our students are the one who are so used and who are so prompt with these kind of technological resources. So we have to facilitate them better for our students. So you will definitely see a hybrid curriculum the way forward. You will definitely see lot of on-off resources like it. Hence, it will not be that at home, so means no studies, or there it is going to be completely weaning away. So whether you are at home, whether you are on vacation, whether you are away on a holiday, there will always be ways and avenues which were hitherto not really thought of before. So I think that yes, education would continue, and it would continue with these added facets of technological. But again, it comes with a lot of riders, that whether we as educators and the student community and the parents as important stakeholders are making judicious use of it. That is also very essential. So that would be my take to begin with. Thank you.
Definitely, ma'am. The process is irreversible. We are not going back to the traditional way. And yes, it has given a forced test run, and we have accepted it. Sanjeev, sir, I'll come to you. What is your take on this?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. First of all, good evening to all the panelists, audience, the participants, and especially Vivek, sir, for conducting this program. You have come up with a very good question, that whether we will continue with this type of education to the student, or whether we are going back to the traditional way of teaching to the students. So looking into the current situation, online classes are way forward. Why? Because students are getting a good content when we are teaching them online. But I just want to go a little back, when this outbreak of COVID-19 was sudden, and it forced all the educational institutions to shut immediately. It was a big challenge for every one of us. On this platform, I want to say big thanks to all the teachers to adapt and integrate all this new technology and all the new methodology in the best interest of the students. The teacher, they adapted, they integrated the online, all the materials as well as the methods. As a result, nowadays, the students as well as the teachers, parents, they are used to get the online classes, as well as they are ready to get this type of the education. But there are little concerns when we talk about the online classes. We already using the blend learning in our schools. There's no any concern, because we are sitting in the cities and we are having the good background. The organization is very big, so we are providing all sort of the support to the parent, to the student, to the teachers also. But there's a little concern for this online classes for the students, those who are living in the remote areas. Because in the remote areas, the biggest problem which we are facing, that is the internet connectivity. At the same time, the gadgets, they don't have the proper gadget to use. At the same time, if we have the internet connectivity, gadgets also there, but even then, some of the parents still they want face-to-face interaction, because they find the students are more safe with the teacher when they are doing this face-to-face learning, and they're finding that the face-to-face learning, the learning outcomes are much better than that of the online classes. So this is the topic which we can, basically this is a debatable topic. A long debate can be do, but yes, because we have got a good result during this online classes, because at that time we don't have any other option. We have opted it, we got good results. So I hope we can say that this online classes is the supplement, but we cannot say this is a substitute for the teaching. We can add into as a supplement. We cannot replace all the things. That we cannot say that the traditional sort of the teaching should not be there, because we need the amalgamation of all the things, online teaching as well as the offline. When we talk about the e-learning, so the teacher can enhance their lesson plans. They can add more videos, they can show more PPTs, but in order to get the real feedback from the student, whether they are understanding the assessment, when we talk about the assessment part, I think we should have to think in the both the ways. When we talk about the giving the material to the students, so this is a nice platform. We can give the n number of the materials to the student, n number of the things to the student. I do agree with ma'am, but ma'am has told that we cannot come back and we cannot return, and we should not be returned back on this. But at the same time, we should have to think about all the students, those who are studying in cities as well as rural areas, where they're not finding this type of the difficulties. So what I mean to say to that the online classes are good, but this can only serve as a supplement, but not a substitute for the traditional sort of the teaching. We should have to go with the online classes, but we should have to amalgamate it with this the traditional type of teaching also. Thank you, sir.
Definitely, sir. The hybrid or blended learning, as you've said,
yeah,
is the call.
Yeah.
Basically, it will never be complete online, and it has given a good test run. Yes, India as a country, we have all the resources, and we know that during this pandemic time, which was unprecedented, unpredicted, those students suffered the most who were staying in remote areas, villages, as they were not prepared. In tier 1 cities, students were privileged enough, lucky enough to get things rolling. So Pallavi ma'am, finally I'll come to you. How do you think it is going to be?
Good evening, Vivek. Good evening, all the panelists in the program today and all the viewers who are watching us. So this question, the title of the program says that Education 2025. So we really have to imagine what's going to happen based on our experiences in the past 1.5 years. So in March of 2020, when the school suddenly shut down, I think one approach that all of us as teachers, parents, and children adopted was the adaptive method, where we adapted to the change so beautifully. The shift happened. Of course, there were roadblocks, but as a team, we all worked together and tried to find smart solutions for children so that their learning is not, discontinued or stopped for any reason. Second, I think the partners, the three partners in education is the parent, the child, and the teachers. So everybody, if you have to look at Envision 2025, everybody is going to go through a major shift. Let's talk about the children. For the children, I think a major shift is going to be, a shift from education for all or one size fits all to individualized education plan. The children will be able to follow that because online learning or digital learning gives them that scope. For the teacher, I think she's going to move, definitely she has already started shifting from sage on the stage to being a facilitator, enabling children to learn and not making them learn, okay, or helping them, but enabling in a very positive, in a very guided way. She's enabling the child to learn. And third, the parent will have to be more participative now. In 2025, till let's say 2020, February or March of 2020, learning was the responsibility of the school and the teacher. But now there is a major shift where the parent has taken up most of the responsibility. The parents have to supervise, they have to monitor, they have to make the children be there in the school. Initially, it was a shared responsibility between these two major institutions, home and family, school and family. But now there is a major shift. So this hybrid model, as the panelists said, that is definitely going to be there. I envision I do not envision a school where there is not going to be any face-to-face contact. Face-to-face contact or face-to-face learning is definitely going to be an integral part of education in India and specifically in school. But technology-based learning or technology-infused learning or technology-enabled learning is definitely going to be the flavor in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Pallavi ma'am. Yes, teachers cannot be replaced, and the human touch in school education particularly, we cannot imagine happening, because it's just not the subject knowledge. It's all about the social quotient, emotional quotient that they develop at that particular time frame when they sit in a classroom having 40 to 20 batchmates, a new teacher coming every day, new activities that happen in the group. So yes, definitely ma'am, a classroom teaching cannot be replaced, but there would be technological support added to it. So here, since we have had the experience of 1.5 years, so what are the major advantages that you found in digital teaching over the classroom coaching that were happening earlier? Again, Amrita ma'am, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I would just like to continue from where our panelists just spoke of, that how it is going to enable the self-regulated learning in our students. So, that was one thing I think we as educators always found it a challenge when we had face-to-face education in school classes going on, because, somewhere our students were so complacent, and even the parents were very super complacent, I would say, because they knew that everything is going to be, like ma'am just said, that everything is going to be taken care of by the school, it will happen in the school and all. But now the onus is on the learner who is sitting across the screen. So because the teacher is going to come and she is going to facilitate the procedure, she is going to guide the student, but later on it is for the student to take it further. And there are ample of avenues. Like I said, the tech resources are, because tech is not to disable the learners. The tech resources are such to make it enable the learners and to make them learn and grow. And like ma'am just said, that it is for approaching the diverse needs of every student. So one student may find that, okay, I would like to do something which has got integrated projects and I would like to explore more of those. Some child would be more of, a visually aided learner. So the child would say that the videos of learning which are there on this concept are more appealing to me. So why not explore more such videos available there? So I would say each and every learner has got ample of resources to explore and then to learn as per that. So the teacher is only going to facilitate. She is going to give them ample of options and choices. So, the student agency is going to develop, wherein the student has got a voice, he has got a choice, and then they have got that agency wherein they are going to be the decision makers of the kind of learning they are going to do, also about how much they are going to learn. So I feel this is one of the biggest advantages which the digital resources or digital technology has done to us in the past 1.5 years, because earlier these resources were available, but they weren't explored so much on the net by the student or by the educators as well, and never certainly by the parents also. That is what. So that is one of the reasons you find, why do you have even the online, I would say, tutorials coming up, and they coming up with, what are they doing? They are just propagating the various kind of resources which are available, and they are supplying to the students, I would say the consumers here, in multiple formats. So multiple formats which is even otherwise available on the big screen. So the student just needs to explore themselves further, and they will be doing. Besides this, for the educators, I would say it is the same. Like when I see myself as an educator, the past 1.5 years has been such a, I would say, a steep path of learning for me as an educator, because these parts of digital education were really not explored by us. So when I had to guide my team of teachers that you do these courses, they will enable you, you try out these apps on Google or on the Microsoft platform, they will help you out. I myself as an educator had to sit had to explore, had to find out, because only then we are able to further guide our educators. So I would say it was a mutually enhancement, encouraging. And because ours is not a generation which takes very easily and very fondly to these kind of technological resources, so we really have to clue ourselves, and we have really to push ourselves, saying no, now there is no way out and you need to explore this. So that is how we go forward. And also what has happened is that because these kind of resources have come up, there is no end to learning. I would say there are ample of avenues, multiple opportunities of learning, multiple avenues to learning. So the more the merrier, I would say, whether it is the parent, whether it is the educator, or whether it is the student, the most important stakeholders, it is to each one of them how they want to make the most of it and go ahead. So I would say ample of opportunities to explore, but we have to be very careful on what we tread. Thank you.
Definitely, ma'am. The way of imparting the education has become versatile due to technology, because there are multiple ways which have come up, which will suit maybe all type of students altogether. Sanjeev sir, your inputs on this, please.
Yes, sir. So I will continue with what ma'am has told. Now, when we talk about the advantages of this online classes, so sir, this online classes reduce the gap between teachers as well as the student, between teachers as well as the parent. Now the teachers also become the co-learners along with the students. The teachers are also learning day by day the new skills. They are just thinking about the new apps in order to make the online learning or the teaching more easy, more comfortable, more approachable to the students. When we talk about the student point of view, that this is very easy for the student to cope with this online classes, because earlier when they have to go to the schools, so they have to wake up early in the morning, they have to get ready, they have to prepare so many things. But when we are talking about the online classes, so there's a saving of time for the student. At the same time, it reduces somewhere the pressure to go to the school, to the student. On time preparation, on time meal. So they have the freedom to take their own meal at the time. They can take the meal with their family members. It means that little bit there's independent sort of things are there. They can do all the things according to their own schedule, not with the schedule of the school. So this is the one thing when I want to talk about this. When we talk about the advantage to the teacher, what ma'am has told, in order to enhance the teaching learning process, the teachers can use maximum technology in order to enhance the teaching learning process. Because when ma'am has told that there are a number of ample of material, ample of videos, or ample of resources are available, which the teachers never used before the online classes. Now the teachers are going to the different websites, they're finding the different videos, they're using the different PPTs in order to make this teaching learning process more easy, more comfortable, more student centered. I think this is the main advantage that we found. Apart from this, we can cover the different types of because every student having the different learning journey and they're having the different learning styles. So when we go for the online classes, so the online classes have the variety. We are having the videos, we are having the audios, we are showing different types of the PPTs to them. So it means we are going to cover the different types of learning styles of the students over here. It means we are reaching to each and every student. Those in the physical schools, maybe it's not possible for the teacher to cover the entire class with each type of the learning style. But yes, during online classes, we are covering all sort of the student, whether they're having one type of audio or type of learning style or the video type of learning style, we are covering over there. And the other thing is there, some of the students, they find they are not very comfortable to sit in the class. I'm not saying the majority, but some they are not very comfortable. Now they are very comfortable sitting alone at home. They are studying according to their own pace. They are not feeling any sort of the hesitation to ask the question, because in the class, most of the time the students are thinking, if I ask the question or the teacher will ask for me the question, if I would not give the answer, the student will laugh on me. But now these of the problems are resolved because the online classes student, they can raise any type of the question to the teacher and the teachers are giving the online answer to the student. So I think it will reduce the gap between teachers as well as the student. At the same time, the parents are also observing the lessons. They are sitting with the student. They're thinking, and they're just observing what the teachers are teaching, and the teachers are also getting the feedback on day-to-day basis. And when the teachers are getting the feedback on day-to-day basis, definitely they are improving their teaching learning processes. They are improving their styles. They're improving their methodology with which they are going in the classes. So I think that this is the advantages what we have counted, that is reduce the gap between all the stakeholders. Thank you, sir.
Definitely, sir. And I must salute all the educators who have brought the classrooms to the desk of the child at their home. So that has been the major point that has kept the learning process alive. Pallavi ma'am, your take on this, please.
Yeah, I think Sandeep sir and Amrita have said most of the points, but what I would like to say and what I have observed in my school is that the teachers, this is the time which has helped the teachers to think in very innovative and creative ways for the way they design their lesson plans and the different pedagogical approach that they have adopted for classroom teaching. So this is a very, very encouraging times for teachers to become learners, because there was a sense of complacency, when before COVID, where, any lesson plan would work because they would be alone with the children. So it was not possible for a school head or a department head to monitor what exactly was happening. Now there is accessibility for parent, for teacher, for principal to the classroom. So that also leads to a lot of accountability. I feel that has increased because, anybody can enter the class to observe, to share, to learn together. So point one is that. Point two is, of course, there is a greater sense of ownership, because children are learning this, that, they are responsible. They have to be there in school. Initially, the parents would get them ready and send them to school. But now it's the child who has to take the responsibility of being there and attending the school. So these are two areas where I see, these are major advantages that we see. Also, a lot of learning material that is available online has increased manifold. There is so much available online in the digital world for the teacher to explore, and also the student to explore post the lesson is done. So, and of course, as sir mentioned, the time that the children have on hand has given them that kind of accessibility and that freedom to explore learning materials post school time. Because now the school time is not those long 6-7 hours, it's a shorter period of time. So they get more time on hand to explore different learning material. And this kind of flexibility to learn on their own has given them that sense of ownership, accessibility, and learning at their own pace. So I feel these are the major advantages for the children and for the teachers. I must mention one last point. I think what we have observed in our schools is a lot of teamwork which has happened, because this kind of innovation that we are all experiencing in learning cannot happen without teamwork. So teachers have really become very strong teams who are learning with each other, teaching each other, and hand holding each other in this beautiful journey of innovation and creativity.
Definitely, ma'am. Pallavi ma'am, I'll continue with you only. So we have seen the advantages, and we also discussed that this was existing earlier. This is not something that came post-COVID, that since we expected that lockdown might happen, so we will develop the technologies. Zoom or Microsoft or Google Classroom or any other platforms like that, they were existing prior to this. Let's talk about 2015, 2014, at that era. But still, we never, tried to bring them on the board.
Yes.
So, of course, we always want innovation. So, what are the major disadvantages of digital teaching that we considered and we did not bring this on board?
So, major disadvantages is the disconnect that the children and the teachers feel. Because, a 10-year-old or a primary school learner or a pre-primary needs that personal touch, which is totally missing in this kind of digital learning. And the choice that the children, youngsters or the young teenagers are exercising in not attending the school, because now that choice is with them. If they don't like a subject, they don't attend. However much you may, talk to the parent, talk to the child, is important. All subjects are important. But right now, that choice is in their hands. So that is a major advantage, because these children are too young to make choices. Also, children are going through a lot of trauma, and it's becoming very difficult to connect with them because they are not opening themselves up in an online class. See, in a physical school or a physical classroom, there are friends with whom they would share, and through those sources, the counselor or the teacher would come to know that there is a problem in the child's life. Now, although we have a very strong counseling unit and they are in touch, but it's not the same. Where you would have face-to-face counseling, where you would share, vent, pour out your heart, that is not happening anymore. Also, a lot of children are, getting addicted. That is a major problem that we are experiencing. We have had examples where the parents are under the understanding that, they're believing that the children are studying, but they are playing an online game or watching a YouTube video. And this is like, fooling the parents right under their nose. So these are very difficult times for the children, and we need to empathize with them and not judge them, say why, because this is not normal. They need to be out with their friends. They need to be active. They need to be using their muscles, right now. But none of this is happening. So just sitting down and learning is not designed for them, but they're forced into it. So when you're forced into some activities, you will try to escape that. So I feel there are right now a lot of disadvantages which we can't, afford to ignore. We need to keep that plan also, in hand, so that, we take care of all the needs, the social, emotional, physical, and mental well-being of the children. Thank you.
Definitely, ma'am. Yes, children cannot decide, take the correct decision on their own. Otherwise, there would not have been the requirement of teacher, mentor, or guardian as such. So parents must monitor. It's just not that they buy a device and pass it on to them and their learning would continue. Since in the school, there were no excuses or other things that they could, go away with. But right now at home, there are many ways, techniques by just with thousands of excuses like electricity went off or internet is down.
Yeah.
Students can just, leave the classes and they do not know what impact it will have in the long run. So parents' guidance and regular watch over them is must. Amrita ma'am, your take on this. The disadvantages, because we never tested this. It was a forced imposition on us.
Right. So, like you just said, and I would say Pallavi ma'am said that the socio-emotional connect, I would say, that is the biggest drawback of this digital classes or the online teaching, which we have been forced to or relegated to since the past 1.5 years. Because you see, for the past however years, like whenever we have spoken of education, whatever we have been as students and whatever we have learned, and even when we go through the research papers on education, or when we speak to senior academicians or educationists, everybody has spoken about school education being a milestone in a child's life, and why so? It's not just because of the academics which is dealt. Like I, for say, as a teacher, always feel that once a child gets into the school, education will always happen. But besides education, there are so many other facets to the child's holistic learning pedagogies which need to be nurtured, which need to be catered for, and that is provided only in a wholesome school environment. And that is why this stress on one-to-one connect, when the body language of when I as a teacher am in the classroom, when I'm interacting with my students, a batch of 30 students, I get to see, I know from their body language whether they are glued to me, whether they are wavering from their attention, or whether it's just bumping off their heads, so you come to know just that eye-to-eye contact with any child, and every child goes through so many many changes. Like I would say at every stage, at the formative years, whether it is a pre-primary child, a toddler, who would say it's so difficult to make a toddler to just sit in a place, even in a regular classroom, and to make him pay attention. So how do you really fathom to make him include, even if it is a 40-minute class or a 20-minute session online, even if he is aided by his parent, it's very difficult. And then the teacher really doesn't know that whether she has been able to connect with that child. Because for every child that teachers connect, you ask us as students, I still know who was my best teacher and who was the teacher I used to really run away from. Why? Because there was some connect which was formed with the teacher. So that connect is certainly missing. And also, like ma'am just said, that it is going to be a humongous task once we get back to the regular school. And mind you, we will get back, because COVID is just an aberration. It may be a colon, it may be a comma, but it's definitely not a full stop. And we have to come back to the regular school days. When you come back to the regular school days, besides thinking of filling in the learning gaps which will be there, we will have to put in a wholesome wellness curriculum for the past next couple of years, because there would be so much of inbuilt which has been just stuffed between the child or in the child's, any child for that matter, wherein they have not been able to vent out themselves. How can they vent out themselves in front of a screen? It's not possible. Though we have even the wellness educators taking the online sessions, but that connect is missing. So that wellness curriculum is going to be definitely an integral part of your regular school curriculum, so that you get the students on track with this. And also, I would say the other disadvantage is that, not following the netiquettes, what we call them. The netiquettes means the basic do's and don'ts, which we always tell the parents during the orientation, which we guide the students, that you need to keep your screen on, you need to keep your mic switched off, you are not going to use the chat box for unnecessary chats, but they still do all the don'ts. So there we are seeing that this kind of indiscipline is creeping in, and it is becoming a task for us as educators to guide the students. And ma'am also mentioned that also it is very difficult, because if the students, we have seen, and this has personally happened in my school, in my classes, in the senior classes, I have seen that whenever even I have spoken, I have taken classes with my senior students, many of the times the screens are off, and I tell them, I can never teach or I can never talk to a blank screen. You need to have your videos on. So they come up with multiple reasons: bandwidth low, connectivity, this, that, whatever is there. Also, we will see there have been students, when we have guided the parents or mentioned to the parents, they say that the child is glued to the screen. Ma'am, he is there for all the 2 hours or 3 hours the classes are there. But then what is the child doing? Simultaneously, if you see, maybe the YouTube videos are on, maybe some other game is on, or the PlayStation is going on simultaneously, which may not be conducive to his or her learning at that point of time. So this is definitely a huge disadvantage. And I would say that the self-regulation of the learners comes here into focus, because they only have to guide them. We can only counsel them at this point of time, because they themselves are undergoing through so many changes, which they are not able to really vent out or come up with us. So we have to empathize with them. We need to give them the time and space, and we need to hope and pray that this too shall end, this too shall pass, and we'll be able to guide them in a better environment, in a better situation. Thank you.
Definitely, ma'am. Like, as you mentioned, yes, IQ is being catered, but what about the social quotient, emotional quotient, their mental well-being? So we are very far from reaching to a stage where we can consider that, yes, we are good at the digital education. We are very far from it. But yes, we will achieve that too. Sanjeev, sir. What are the disadvantages as per you, please?
Sir, when we talk about the disadvantages, so I just want to tell you, this was a transformation in the field of the education. This was not only the change. When we shift from offline to online, nobody was prepared at that time. But once we shifted our mindset from offline to online, everything changed. But even then, when I told in the earlier point, when there are the advantages, I told this online classes reduce the learning gap between student and teacher. But at the same time, it increase the gap, social gap between student and teacher and parent. Because until unless we are not meeting with one another, we are not able to communicate what sort of the problem the students are facing. If the student is meeting every day to the teacher, so he can or she can tell to the teacher, this topic I have not understood, so please make me understand. It's very easy for a student to approach to the teachers. But now, because of the online classes, somewhere they're feeling they are not so comfortable to ask or clarify their doubt. The first thing. The second thing, what I want to point out over here, there's no any peer learning. When we talk about the peer learning, when the students are sitting in the class, for example, teacher asks one question, the number of students, they raise their hands. Looking into those hands, the others, they also try to raise their hand that I also knew the answer, I also know the answer, I want to give the answer. So this type of the peer learning as well as the competitive spirit, somewhere is missed during this online classes. They are knowing nobody is watching to us, whether we have kept our screen on or off. So in that case, somewhere this connection is missed. And third thing, what I want to tell over here, this is the age where the students, they need their friends. So many things, so many skills they learn from their friends rather than from the teacher, rather than from the parents. Now, because the students are sitting at home, they are not meeting, even then they are meeting virtually, so they are not open up with their friend also. So that learning from the friends is also somewhere it stopped from the parents or from the friends also. At the same time, when we talk about the online classes, sometimes the student, they are facing the problem, the internet connectivity or connectivity issues are there. And when the connectivity issues are there, so what will happen? They are not able to complete their class at that time. And some sort of a demotivation to the student that I have not understood this topic because the teacher has finished this topic. And the biggest thing is there, the students are not making notes. And even the students are making notes, they are not sharing their notes also. But if the schools are offline, the teachers are just looking into whether the students are making notes or not making notes. And if some student miss something, next day he or she can borrow the notebook from somebody and she or he can complete his pending work. So when we talk about advantages and disadvantages, I think this is a parallel both the sides. If we have the advantages, then there are the disadvantages. When we talk about the health risk is also there. Most of the time we are listening from the parent, the student, they are sitting for longer hours in front of the screen, and it's going to affect on the eyesight also. So this is again the disadvantage. For how long we can keep the student busy? Because when we talk about the classes, regular classes we are doing, but what about the other things? What about the co-scholastic? We are not able to complete it because for that we need the extra time for this. The student again, they have to sit in front of the screen, and again this is creating the another issues that is regard to the health issues also. So this is from my side, sir. Thank you.
Definitely, sir. So we can see that education somewhere, it is a two-way process, but now it has become one way to those who want to avoid it, and only the students who are very much interested and want their learning process to continue are taking the benefit of it. Others are able to, just divert and miss out the crucial time of their educational journey. So again, since we are talking about disadvantages, and right now we had a very recent announcement for 12th board exam cancellation, where 1.5 months ago, even 10th board exam was cancelled. So I see that 90% of the exams are cancelled. And evaluation is one of the key agenda for education. So it is being disrupted. Like we were not able to evaluate students, or the transparency in evaluation has been lost. So how should we solve it? How do we actually get to know that student has actually developed some learning of the subject or overall, or he's just wasted the time? So the disruption of evaluation part, how do we solve it? Pallavi ma'am, I'll start with you only.
Good you brought this point up, because I very strongly believe about this whole examination system and the focus that parents and children have put on examination is very, very disturbing. Because, I'll tell you very honestly, when we are having meetings with parents and we're talking about school programs which will help the child to develop leadership skills, communication skills, collaborative skills, they are not all ears. But the moment we start talking about the evaluation pattern for the year, the examination, and their pens and the writing pads are all out and they want to take notes and everything. So this focus, too much focus on examination is not good for the child, because what happens then, the child's learning is focused on learning for the test and not learning to build or build his own skills, attitudes, knowledge. It's only that how many marks am I going to score at the end of the year, what percentage am I going to get, and which in turn is going to make the parent either proud or extremely disturbed. So this is the way the parents react to the performance of the child. So I strongly believe that evaluation, and now it's high time that we plan our evaluations in such a way that they are continuous evaluations happening and not of very high weightage, break it into smaller parts so that examinations happen in a very playful way, at least till the middle school. The 9th and 10th and 11th, 12th, they have to focus on, preparing if board exams are ever going to happen again the way they happened till last year. So then they learn to focus, on building skills, building attitudes, building knowledge, constructing all this, through projects, through activities. Now, because of the online thing, the variety of activities that the children can present, their content is so varied, it's so diverse. So I strongly believe that, now evaluations should be designed in a very creative way. They need to be child friendly and they need to be objective driven. If you have taught something in the class, only then can you design a question paper based on that. But it should be a variety of MCQs, integration activities, collaborative activities, creativity, learning by doing, hands-on activities. So a variety of systems should be explored by the evaluation system, should be explored by the school, and not just a paper pencil test where you can hear the dhak of the children's heart when they start writing the exam. You can really sense that, and that nervousness or anxiety on their faces the moment they get that question paper, which becomes the omnipresent thing, kind of a thing in that child's life for that moment. That we have to break free of that and have very, very child friendly, creative and effective evaluation systems that will help us understand about the level of the child.
Definitely, ma'am. We need to change from the earlier pattern where studies were only done to get marks, not to gain knowledge. So yes, that change is definitely needed. And this has given a break to ponder upon this and come up with a solution. Amrita, ma'am, I would like to have your take on this, please.
So I would say the focus definitely, yes, on assessment, like Pallavi ma'am just said, has to change, and we need to, like we have rediscovered and reimagined education in the online mode. So we need to further reimagine and come up with new strategies of how we are going to assess the child. For this, I would say the focus on 21st century learning skills is extremely essentials, like critical thinking, creativity, communication, collaboration. So these need to be emphasized on, and it is on these we need to set up our rubrics, and also then we have to prepare the children for being assessed. And I would say here that, like ma'am said, that the children should be aware of what they are being assessed for, and they should not be fretting and fuming over, oh my God, what is going to be coming in that. For that, I think CBSE has also now come up with a lot of emphasis on competency-based education, wherein it talks about involving the children while designing the learning outcomes. Why is it so? Because when a child is involved in drafting or designing the learning learning outcome, he or she is well aware as a student, okay, this is what I am going to supposed to be achieving at the end of learning that concept. And so when I'm aware as a child, as a student, that these are going to be my learning outcomes, I will take the multiple approaches which is feasible to me as a student to attain those learning outcomes or the learning goals. So when you're involving the student in the learning process or in the designing of the concept which is being tried, attempted by the teachers now, so that is definitely going to make the students important stakeholders where they are involved as learners. They are not just consumers of what is being dished out to them. So they are where they are involved learners, and that is very, very important. Also, more than the summative and the bigger task, I would say, little formative of assessments, it's very important, because formative assessment helps. That is assessment of your learning which is happening. It is assessment for learning, which is very essential. It is not just a summation of your learning which is important. So it happens in bit by bit processes, in small steps. And these formative assessments, it could be project based, it could be interdisciplinary through the curriculums, it could also be through some audio visual techniques which or videos which the children make on the concepts given. So these kind of formative little assessments will definitely help the children to learn and grow faster. And most important is to give them multiple avenues to explore and assess themselves. So we actually want to take them, when we talk about self-regulated learners, I would also say that self-assessment is very important, where I as a child, I as a student am able to assess. So now when I'm creating something, I spoke about the 21st century learning skills, where we talk of creativity, we talk of critical thinking. So when these are embedded in a student, the child is made to think, the child is then enabled to create. So when a child is a creator of some learning process, it could be the assessment only given. So then the child is very conscientious about what he or she is producing, and then they will be working doubly hard to make that the end product is valuable enough and is creative enough. That is very, very essential, I would say. Also, the teachers, I would say, thanks to this pandemic and thanks to the digital revolution, the teachers have moved in from the chalk and talk method or a more didactic approach now, wherein they have become or trying to become facilitators of the curriculum to our students, and they are tasking more and more to the students so that they imbibe and enjoy the learning process. But the parents still need to be molded. Like ma'am just said, that whenever you have an orientation, the parents are only wanting to listen what you are going to talk about or how you are going to evaluate the child. So rather than that, the parents also need to understand that this assessment for learning is just one stage in life. It is not life itself, because we do not want the child's life or the education for that matter to end at a grade 7 or end at a nursery or a KG for that matter. It is a child being a learner for life. It goes beyond the school years. It goes beyond his graduation or post-graduation, wherein the child should remember his school years with fondness, and he or she should remember that yes, we used to have such fantastic ways of assessing, wherein I have created so many things. I never even realized I was being evaluated. I never even realized the teacher was giving me so many assessments. Also, I would say here peer assessment is a very essential and an important factor, wherein you put them into collaboration with the peer group and ask them, because we have generally seen that studies have also proven that children open out more and they are into their natural self when they are discussing amongst their peer group. So when you have the peers, it helps as a peer assessment going on. So you will have the peer group not only assessing, but it will also have the individual students within the group reflecting on their it is. So it, rather than a feedback given, I would say it is a feed forward given by the students to their fellow students also. So these are, I think, a few ways, and I would say these are a few points, I would say, or I would say milestones which we need to still cross and come across, and then assessment would be made very, very student friendly, and it would not be so much of a stress which it is looked upon. And again, the pandemic has forced us to look upon these kind of assessment pedagogies now, and we really need to look into that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for showing the light to this side of the topic. When we are reimagining education in like few years down the line, this holds the substantial weightage. And yes, we must work towards it to actually judge students not on how much they can mug up the concept and put it on, but how much they have developed in the soft skill part, in the critical thinking part, their analytical approach towards the subject, and for their holistic development of us. Sanjeev sir, your approach, please.
Yes, sir. I do agree with both the panelists, what they have told, that in place of summative assessment, we should have to go for the formative assessments. The way we have done the research in order to make this online classes more success, I think still there's a need to do the homework or do the research in order to make this assessment system more transparent, more approachable. At the same time, we need to do the work in order to make this assessment system more clear to teachers as well as to the student. Though we have done many experiments into this, but still this is the area of the concern, that how we can do the assessment to the student. We tried different methods. We did so many things over there, but still I think we need to work on this. Apart from this formative assessment, all the points already covered. But I personally, what I feel, if we give the student some open-ended questions where they need to comprehend the concept or the content, I think this is going to help us to assess exactly whether they have understood the concept. Ma'am has rightly told that most of the time we are running after the marks, but at that time we are forgetting about the knowledge. Rather, we should have to focus more on the knowledge, what the student they have learned, rather than what they have scored. But unfortunately, we are at the end, what we are thinking that how much score the student he or she has scored, but we forget what he or he has learned. But my concern is that if we are giving this type of
I think we have lost Sanjeev sir to some technical.
Sorry,
sir, continue. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Am I audible, sir? Yeah,
Yes,
sir.
So maybe we can take that point later, and we are already running short of time. So last question for the day. Again, Pallavi ma'am, I'll start with you. Over the topic, your message to our viewers, students and parents, please. The concluding statement for the day.
Yeah, I would just like to end that any calamity or disaster is an opportunity to learn, to prepare ourselves better. And this pandemic is definitely a major disaster that all of us have experienced. And I'm sure people are going to come out, students, teachers, and schools are going to come out stronger with a better vision, where technology, we hold hands with technology and not fear technology like how most of the teachers would fear pre-pandemic times. So it's just that, be ready for a variety of circumstances that life is going to throw at you. And I keep telling my students that, their generation, the 21st century learners, I think this kind of uncertainty is going to be a part of their life. So it has given them a taste of it at a very early age. And I'm sure they will be better equipped with skills, with knowledge, with the right attitude and approach in life to deal with any kind of conflict, disaster, or a calamity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yes, as Amrita ma'am once quoted, this too shall pass. ये भी एक वक्त है वाले कि गुजर जाएगा. So you need to be futuristic in your approach, be positive around, and make this time, take it as an opportunity to develop something else. They have freedom to fix their routine, learn new skills, and everything is handy. Because we cannot imagine if this type of pandemic had happened in 2005, then how much solution we could provide. They still have many things which maybe others would have missed. So they should make use of it. Amrita ma'am, your concluding statement for our viewers, students and parents.
So, Vivek, I would like to say that yes, I said that COVID is just an aberration and it's a comma, definitely not a full stop. And we are waiting yet for the good old times to be back. Because here, I would like to quote from the research of Professor John Hattie, an Australian academician and a very well-known researcher whose research on visible learning has been very popular, wherein he had tried to rate the student and teacher learning, and he said what has the most effect on students, wherein the first 5 strategies which had the most effect were the teacher involvement. So it is definitely a given that the students learning will improve and the students learning will be propelled only with the teacher, when the teacher is facilitating the learner in whatever form it is, and ideally when the teacher is facilitating that kind of an environment with those kind of pedagogies, transacting that kind of a wholesome curriculum in the classroom or outside it, only then the learner is going to be enhanced and is going to be facilitated. So the parents and students should be rest assured that we will be coming back to the good old days. But yes, this time, this 1.5 years has given us so much to learn, even beyond, and find out ways and avenues to ensure that the learning doesn't stop. And we have tried to do precisely just that. We have continued the learning journey, and now we are going to make it more wholesome, more holistic, wherein we as teachers are going to come up with new strategies, new facilitations, wherein the students are going to be motivated to learn in a very, I would say, conducive environment where the onus is going to be on them as learners. And I would say the parents also need to accept it wholeheartedly that yes, this is going to be the way forward, and definitely those good old times will be back. So till then, we need to be patient and we need to keep learning and growing, whether as educators, whether as students, or whether even as parents, I would say. Thank you.
Definitely, ma'am. I see that in time to come, we will have teachers' touch, affection, understanding, along with this addition of technology that has enabled the education process to happen during this tough time. And that will be, I think, one of the best possible hybrid way to carry out the process. Sanjeev sir, your concluding message to our viewers, students and parents, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir rightly said that united we stand and disconnected we fall. So there are the 3 pillars of education, that is student, teacher and parent. So collaboration is required, as the need of the hours. If we all the 3 pillars work together in the same direction as a team, I think nothing is impossible for any one of us. Neither anything impossible for student, teacher or the parent. We can understand the situations are not very, very favorable. Circumstances are very, very tough, and all we are undergoing a very, very tough situations. But yes, we can do it. We have already done and we will do it. So this is my concluding message. Just try to be well acquainted with all the things what the schools are doing for your kids. At the same time, we are requesting to the parents, whenever you find anything you feel that these are the things which is going to help the school or the student, do approach the schools, do approach your teachers. Definitely, if the thing find that these are going to good to the school or the student, definitely we are going to implement in our school. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you, Sanjeev sir. Here I take the opportunity on the behalf of my entire team of Authority Solutions and Punekar News to thank all the educators, the unsung frontline workers, I would say, who never let the learning stop, irrespective of all the limitations and hurdles that they have faced. So thank you so much. We salute all the educators, teachers, principals of schools across the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vivek. It was really a very
Thank you so much.
nice experience. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, all the panelists.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kroom, you may end the live.